movie sneak peek. It's Olivia here at the red carpet premiere for Tusk here at the Fantastic Fest. So tonight kicks off the 10th anniversary for Fantastic Fest. What does this milestone mean to you?
Wow, it's hard to imagine thinking back to those first days when we started up Fantastic Fest that it would grow into something like this. It was a very modest affair, 4 days, 25 movies, and it was really just something for the Austin community to get these types of movies, international, crazy, weird genre films. And we're still doing that. We still go after international, crazy, weird genre films, but now we've got an industry component. We've got young filmmakers that are looking for opportunities. It's become more of an international event in and of itself. So I'd like to say there was a master plan, but it really just sort of organically grew over the years.
Awesome. And what are you most looking forward to during this next week?
I like to introduce our guests from foreign lands to two things: Texas barbecue and fully automatic weapons. And so this weekend they're going to get a taste of both.
You're not only the director, but you're also the writer for the film. So what compelled you to take on both roles?
I don't know how to do the job any other way. I tried that once, and that was cop-out. So generally speaking, I have to write and direct each time. I'm barely a director. I'm more of an editor on set, but I am a writer. I take great pride in that. So I tend to write and edit on set under the guise of director, but I always combine those two jobs.
So what was your favorite part about the whole process?
Honestly, man, like the fact that we finished it. So many ideas wither on the vine because never think that they can take it to the limit, that they can start something and finish it. You get a good idea all the time, and then you shout it down with the idea of like, oh, somebody's already done that, or later on, or that's stupid or something. People just don't follow through. The best thing I could say about Tusk is we made it. You know what I'm saying? Like, good or bad is up to the audience. I think it's fucked up. But the fact that we didn't just let it die in a conversation. A lot of people out there are like, oh, this sounds like a stupid stoner conversation. It is. And if it was their stoner conversation, that's where it would have lived. But we had enough kind of like, let's see what that would look like. Enough little rascals in us to try to put on a show. And it worked out, man. It's strange.
Okay, and so the big question here is, for Tusk, Wallace turns into a walrus. Was it always a walrus you had in mind, or were there other animals you talked about?
It was based on an online ad that we found that came out of Brighton, England, and the guy was offering a room in his house in exchange for the lodger dressing like a walrus. So it was always walrus. From the moment I started thinking about it based on that ad, I was like, walrus? So yeah, I don't think any other animal would have worked. You could have said horse, python, duck, and it just would have been like, that's stupid. But walrus, you're like, that's stupid, but then you go, wait a second, how would that work? And you start thinking about it. I guess you'd have to cut off the legs and like it. And that leaves just enough space for us to get in and take up occupancy.
So what initially drove you to do this project?
This man right here, to my left. Kevin was a fan. A lot of the films I did prior were the Batman animated films and video games, and this is the world's biggest Batman fan. And we met because he loved a film I did called The Dark Knight Returns. And we had a chat, we had a podcast. This whole story came from a podcast, and I was another person that was on his podcast originally talking about Batman music, but then we both discovered we had this love for horror films. And it was just kind of a natural phone call. Hey man, I got this weird horror movie, and you want to come and hang out? Of course.
Okay, so what sounds did you try to incorporate throughout the film score?
There's this interesting, if you listen to it, it's kind of a low droning walrus sound. Walruses make weird sounds, but I try to get it like a bass guitar and a cello just to make this kind of, it's just a sound of dread. It's kind of subliminal and just kind of plays in the background a lot. So it's all about setting tone. That's kind of what the idea was.
Okay, so with horror films, the genre is typically known for having cliche, cheesy music in the background. How do you try to work against that stereotype?
Well, I think the key is sometimes the lack of music can make something scary as much as having music in it. Because I think when you hear, as you said, music can be cheesy. If it's used incorrectly, the audience is aware that they're in a movie. But sometimes a lack of music can create a seriousness and a holy moment and disturbing thing that music tells you it's a fantasy. So that's kind of, I think that's a balance of being cheesy and not cheesy, if that makes sense.
So your character Wallace, he turns into a walrus. just casual.
It was in his namesake. It was foreshadowing. You kind of had to. It's like if you call your kid Jeeves, they're gonna probably end up being a butler.
Yeah, naturally. So what animal, if you had the decision to, would you want to turn into?
This is easy for me. It's a monkey, without a doubt. And they just seem so carefree and happy. And I'm always exponentially happier when I'm around monkeys. Easy.
They're pretty joyful animals,
They're the best. They're the best. I've never been happier in my life than when I'm surrounded. The few times I've been lucky enough to be surrounded by monkeys.
So how would you describe Tusk to the viewers out there?
Oh boy, how much time do you have? It is. Well, I like to say it's a mix of a whole bunch of different genres. It's a genre bender. It's Kevin Smith, so you're going to get a little bit of that. But there's also some Human Centipede and some Misery and some straight up real horror. There's some Silence of the Lambs. There's some Kafka for the kids. It's a paella. It's a cinematic paella. Yeah.
Okay, well, it was very nice to meet you. Best of luck with your new film.
Thanks. Good luck at UT. It's a great
Thank
place.
you. Hook 'em.
Yeah.
Woo!